All right. Welcome, everybody, today. Thank you for joining us. We've got an exciting conversation today to talk about automation. So, we're going to be spending some time to talk about why manufacturers need to embrace automation, but not just automation for the sake of automating, right? And not just for the time to value that we hear so much about. But I mean, obviously, automation drives efficiencies and optimization, but just as importantly, sets up a foundation for governance around product data and making sure that manufacturers can ensure that their product information is delivered at the right places at the right time in the right context. And so we're going to kind of challenge ourselves to look at product information not from an internal IT PIM centric view, which we often do, but look at it from the perspective of how our customers experience that product data. We'll talk about omni-channel, but we'll spend a lot of time specifically focusing on print, everything from single page online PDFs to full catalogs. With that, we'll talk about some of the challenges associated with data-driven marketing and how automation plays into that. Really excited to introduce you to Lorcan, who will be taking us through a brief introduction of the Akeneo product cloud. And then we'll also be looking at an app called In Between, which we'll be looking at how that's leveraged for print automation, and then talk a little bit about some of the benefits associated with print automation in the context of putting together a business case. And all of this is done, again, where the whole conversation today is within the context of manufacturers. So a little bit about the panel. First, Lorcan. Lorcan begins with Akeneo. Lorcan's been a pre-sales engineer at Akeneo for about 5 years, calling in out of Boston. So he'll be spending some time again taking us through product. My name is Jeff Bridges. I'm with Antara. Antara is a systems integrator in the PIM and DAM and PXM space. So we take these different technologies and software solutions and kind of tie them together. And last but not least, calling in from Northwest Germany is Peter Flory. Peter is the director of marketing, or director of sales rather, at In Between, and has been in that role for almost a decade. So between the three of us, we've got about almost 24 years of experience in this space, and look forward to talking with you guys a little bit today again about print automation for manufacturers. So I thought we'd start with, just talking about some of the challenges that manufacturers have managing product data. And Lorcan, you mentioned a story yesterday when we were prepping for this that resonated pretty well. Go ahead and pick that up.
Thank you for the introduction, Peter, and hello everybody. So we had a particular story always jumps to mind when I think about manufacturers and how important PIM is in general, right, in this data governance. So this was a few years ago. This was pre-COVID when we were still doing a lot of on-sites for our demos. And I remember going on site with my team, getting ready to do a demo. You know, we had everybody sitting around the big table. And one woman in particular, her name was Lisa, and she was the manager of their warehouse. Their warehouse was right next to their manufacturing. So nice big location, nice big campus. And something incredible had happened about 6 months before where somebody had accidentally deleted all of the dimensional data about their packaging, right? So right, the height, the length, the width, and the weight of their packaging. And because they weren't using any kind of PIM, they were using some sort of older ERP. And that ERP didn't have any data backup. They didn't have any tracking, not that it would help, but to know who did that or when it happened. So this woman spent the next 6 months of her life with a tape measure and a big industrial scale. And every time an order was getting ready to go out, she had to actually go down there and measure that sort of thing out. We know that there's a lot of technical data that manufacturers have, and a lot of that data is very important, right? A lot of downstream sources rely on that data. Really lit up the room, and we definitely made the sale when we told her that we promised hand over heart that would never happen again after they were Akeneo customers.
That's crazy. In all the sales calls I'm ever in, we see charts like this, right? And we talk about challenges with just data everywhere. I don't think I've run across one where they lost everything. So that the fact that somebody is literally weighing products before they go out is just kind of crazy. But this is a chart that I would expect that a lot of folks in the audience probably resonates with a little bit, right? I mean, in these larger companies of manufacturing, there's product data that lives all over the place. There's integrations all over the place, right? From PLMs and ERPs and product data that sits all over the place. And there's this idea that you've got this single source of truth, which we won't get too far down that rabbit hole. But all this data, bill of materials data, obviously B2B and e-commerce, a pressure to move to direct to consumer that manufacturers have. But these are all kind of what I would consider internal perspectives of managing product data. And so we're going to talk more about that, what that means externally in the market. So let's talk about that, Lorcan. If we look at some of the challenges with, data-driven marketing across all the channels out there that manufacturers need to reach, what are some of those challenges, and how have you seen some of those solved?
Yeah, certainly. So, you mentioned the single source of truth. So there's for manufacturers, it's a particular unusual use case for them, as they differ from retailers and others, because they're responsible for this data in the first instance, right? They're actually creating this data. So a lot of downstream sources are going to rely on that data, but it also means it's very difficult to collect. There might be not just ERP to e-commerce, as you might see for a retailer, but they have product lifecycle management tools, and they have design and development sources of data, maybe bill of materials where they're getting raw materials from other sources. So in particular, I think the left-hand side of this diagram is even more suited towards manufacturers than anybody else, because of all the different disparate data sources and locations that they need to pull in from. Then, of course, you've got that single source of truth that you mentioned, and then where is that data going to go? Directly to an e-commerce site. If they're selling direct, or out to all of the different retailers, and then all of those different retailers have their own data models that need to be adhered to. And then, of course, the reason that we're here, maybe they're doing print catalogs, or maybe you're doing a digital catalog, and you need to get that data out to those sources as well. So I think the manufacturers have a unique use case in the complexity of what this web is going to look like for them.
And I have to say it. I mean, print. I thought print was dead. We're going to talk a lot about that because, again, a really, really important channel to manufacturers. So let's move in and take a look at Akinio as a company and as a product. Some of our audience may not have some of the familiarity. So maybe spend just a couple of minutes and introduce us to Akinio.
Yeah, certainly. Just real quick, I know that's not the focus of today, and most people on the call are probably already aware of Akinio, who we are. Of course, our core product is a PIM product, but we do have what we call the Akinio product cloud. So we have much more than just the PIM that is at the center of our ecosystem. We have been around for about 10 years. We just had a party in Boston to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. So we're working on year 11 right now. Very well established, of course, born in Europe first, but long since, the whole time I've been with Akinio, 5 years now, we were in the US and a year or so before that as well. Obviously recognized as a market leader. I mean, we're on all the Forrester, the Gartners, the IDCs, recognized as a leader across the industry. And as I mentioned, we have this entire product experience management. So PIM is the tool, PXM is the art, right? The practice of improving your data and moving it along, keeping it current, keeping it up to date. To manage all of these things, right? Improving customer experience and digital transformation, just to read a couple of them off the slide. But we have a lot of tools that go into this, not just the PIM. So we're going to be talking about the extensibility of the platform today a little bit, and of course with a focus on print.
Well, I don't think we could go any further without mentioning the magic word of AI. I saw an announcement a week or so ago that you may wanted to mention. Some pretty exciting news coming down the pipe, it sounded like.
Yeah. This is again a little bit ancillary to the print discussion, but just good to know. Everyone's excited about AI, right? ChatGPT is fun to play with. It does a lot of amazing things. We see the AI, prompts that are out there. It's becoming an art how to prompt the AI exactly. Well, Akinio just announced the acquisition of Unify. Unify is an amazing tool. Unify actually allows you to input and clean up data into the whole PXM process and the PIM specifically. And Unify in particular has some amazing tools where it can take kind of a messy input of data, and it can automatically map it. It can pull out different content, right? Different attribute content. And so it's really a giant jump forward in the automation capabilities of Akinio. And obviously, we're going to see a lot more about that in the near future. You can certainly Google this name to get the press release, but we're very, very excited about it. It's going to really give Akinio a leg up. And as you can see here, the PXM experience in our product cloud has just become an intelligent product cloud.
You mentioned it's ancillary, and I agree with you, but it's so critical, right? I mean,
Yeah.
anything that we can do to, again, to help establish that governance, to make sure that the product data that shows up in that catalog is the same data that matches in your PIM, right? Anything that we can do to help that is incredible. I want to bring Peter into the conversation. We're gonna start shifting over into print, but Peter, you've worked with, I mean, you've been around a while. You've worked with a lot of these different products. I wanted to talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that you consider a differentiator, or what is it about Akeneo that you would call out, perhaps of note?
Thank you, Jeff. What I really like about Akeneo is that the Akeneo data model is very accessible to the user. So it's very simple to work with, and it really helps to leverage the product data and all the dimensions describing the products to do what we call data-driven marketing in all channels, not just in print.
Interesting. Having seen a lot of these as well, I like the UI. The user interface of Akeneo, really
Yes.
clean, very modern app, right? And there's a lot of features and functions around. I asked the question the other day around units of measure conversions, and Lorcan's like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, that's all built in, right?" So there's things that are very accessible without requiring a lot of extensive configuration or even customizations. Lorcan, what's your favorite, or what's one of your notable differentiators in the product from others that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, the UI starts every demo that I do. I actually have this little spiel that I give. If anybody on this call, I think we have some customers on this call, so they've heard this before. The partners have heard this, but I like to talk about how the UI is very e-commerce like in its look and feel. So we've got a little snapshot of the UI right here, and that's perfect. Things that I always call out, it's like the free text search bar at the top, the filters and facets down the left-hand side. We have a little pop-out category tree on the left-hand side, and then this very familiar product listing page view. So I tell people all of the time, the first time you log into Akeneo without any training or any effort, you're going to be able to navigate it. You're going to be able to search, filter on a product, go into the product that you're looking for and find some attributes or change the attributes with zero training. So that's a huge one. The next one here is automation. We have a lot of automation tools built into the system, right? We really want you to be able to do more with less or extend yourself further with the same team that you have now. So on the left-hand side, we have a screenshot from our DAM, our digital asset manager, and this is showing transformations down the left-hand side. So you can upload one single image and immediately tell it, I need an 800 by 800 pixel count version for my ecom. I need a thumbnail for my ecom. I want the highest possible resolution PNG for my print catalog. All of that can be transformed automatically. And then in the bottom right-hand corner of the left-hand side there, we have product linking. So based on the naming convention, it automatically linked the asset to the appropriate product. So all of that handled, with nobody needing to touch it. And then on the right-hand side, we have a little screenshot of our rules engine. And the rules engine is another huge ROI from Akeneo. This is one that I show just about everybody on every demo. And there's another brief little 30-second story here where we had a manufacturer of golf clubs, actually, that's an Akeneo customer, and they had a unique SKU that was being generated by their ERP and then sent over to their marketing team for enrichment. And each part of the SKU, 23-E/N-29, it was all sort of computer lingo and not human readable. But each one of those bits of the SKU actually meant that it was a carbon fiber shaft, that it had this much lift on the head, that it was this length, etc. So somebody was spending, 3/4 of their day doing VLOOKUPs on 5 different Excel sheets trying to find all of this data. And we were able to completely automate that and free up like 3/4 of one person's time and free them up to do other things just by using the rules engine to replace that. So huge
Very cool.
ROI on the rules engine. And finally, great. This is our extensibility, right? This is really what we wanted to talk about today. Of course, Akeneo has this great app store, and you can go to apps.akeneo.com and find pre-built connectors to all sorts of different tools. You can see some of the categories on the left-hand side here, and of course, I've selected print, and in between shows up as our star of the day.
Well, let's transition to that. I think that's where a lot of people signed up to learn more about. Peter, talk to us a little bit. Introduce In Between to us, and let's start the conversation about how In Between and Akeneo can be leveraged for print automation.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. Yes, starting from the Akeneo App Store, it's very simple to start in between. And we obviously use the PIM system, Akeneo, as the single source of truth, which allows us to dynamically map, for instance, languages, product ranges, target groups, whatever. And it also gives us several options for producing publications automatically. So we can use fully automated publishing straight to PDF. We can deliver ready-made InDesign files for media designers. We can provide an InDesign plugin to work right inside of InDesign. And we have a collaborative environment that allows us to build and plan publications, but also to review whatever's been produced in an automated way.
And when we think about the types of collateral that are being created and distributed by manufacturers, let's talk a little bit about the flexibility in supporting multiple file types and whatnot. What all do you typically see?
Well, if you move on to the next page, I'll give an example of a catalog of one of our customers. And this is kind of exemplary. What we do have, manufacturers typically produce data sheets or spec sheets. They produce price lists, and price lists can get pretty complex. Different retailers might get different prices, and we can produce catalogs, of which we see one example here. So, and specifically, catalogs and data sheets are often produced in many languages. They can be provided to the market as glossy print, obviously, on a bit of paper, but at the same time, publications are distributed in a digital form as a PDF to be used online, and so on.
So from the tool, you build out your templates. The data is being pulled in from the PIM dynamically, and then you can use that to generate either an online PDF or all the way to print. So like all the way to pre-press, bleeds, and all those sorts of things as well.
Exactly.
Very cool. All right. Let's talk about some of the challenges manufacturers have and some of the characteristics of print publications, right? There's manufacturers have somewhat of a unique sets of challenges just in product complexity and things of that nature. So maybe we talk through some of those.
Exactly. So if you look at a typical catalog from a manufacturer, you will find that it's hundreds of pages, even thousands of pages. So they typically have a very large number of products. And each product, as we can see in this example here, will provide lots of technical details, quite often presented in tables, quite complex tables. Um, so typically, the data models of manufacturers are pretty complex. We are talking many product variants. We're talking even configuration of products, and often products bring in a whole range of accessories as well. So the overall complexity is can be quite harrowing, can be quite incredible, and so if we look at that complexity of product data and on the other hand, the large number of publications manufacturers produce, it seems to me very obvious that in producing, catalogs, data sheets, and so on in different languages for thousands of products, efficiency really is the key. So for manufacturers, we typically recommend to automate as much as possible. If you can produce straight to PDF, try to avoid the use of Adobe InDesign because it simply adds manual effort into the production from your data, which you don't want. So produce straight to PDF for data sheets, specifically for data sheets, for price lists, and for catalogs, if at all possible.
Interesting. We have a shared client that we were working with, and it wasn't quite as dramatic as Lorcan's story, but they
Mhm.
had a person on staff who is creating a catalog for one of their divisions and sets of products, and I don't know, 30 pages or so, several hundred products, but the person had been doing this for gosh decades, it seems like, and decided they were going to retire. And the company says, "What are we going to do?" Right? And it was either do we go get another InDesign expert who can manually build all these things, right, and have to worry about keeping all the data synchronized, or provide a more automated solution. So Thankfully, they chose to move forward with Akenio and in between. And we're automating those catalogs today. Very, very powerful. And Peter, I see some similarities here, synergies between typically when you're laying out a catalog and the designer, because there's no connection into the PIM, you run the risk, I would imagine, of categories and titles and things not being the same between the two. But it looks like that there's a pretty large dependency or a heavy dependency on the data model within Akenio to be able to produce this type of content. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely, yes. And as we can see in the next example,
Yep.
What you described, the situation, this is really what we found at Arkema, another customer of Akenio and ours, a large international company. They produce petrochemical products with over 20,000 employees in 55 countries and over 9 billion yearly revenue.
Wow.
So the situation there was really, people were sitting in InDesign. They were getting information of products in Excel sheets. They had to copy and paste the information into InDesign, and it took them ages and cost them a lot of money to produce data sheets. So what they required us to do, produce multi-page data sheets in many languages from Akenio PIM, and please reduce the manual effort. So what we did, we automated the production of the data sheets based on the Akenio PIM and the in-between datasheet service. We call it the auto generator. And on that basis, we produce the data sheets you're showing at the moment. This is just an example. And really, the outcome of this was that we were able to produce 4,500 multi-page documents in a very short time. Those documents are highly complex, as you can see here. And we started off with 5 languages. We add more languages as we go on. And already now, in the combination Akenio PIM plus in between, the customer told us, well, we've saved well over 1 million, and we saved several thousand person days. And so what they're doing now, they're using this model to roll out for additional brands. So they're adding new brands on the same basis, and they will do more publication types as well. So I guess they will do some catalogs as well as more stuff in the print arena.
Well, I'm just curious. Maybe we take a look at the user interface. I mean, it to me, it's a little bit overwhelming to think about what this kind of system would look like. So we've got a slide here that shows us that it's a pretty manageable UI. Take us through this a little bit.
Yes, this really is something that helps to review whatever's being produced by the automation. I mean, automation straight to PDF obviously is hugely efficient on one hand, but on the other hand, when you're producing as a manufacturer, when you're producing PDFs on a large scale, it can seem a little scary because when the PDF is actually being produced, you don't seem to have any visual control. So for that reason, we provide a user interface which allows the team of product managers and marketing people to look at what's being produced from data automatically. They're able to review whatever's being produced. And we call this the publication wizard. So this allows product managers, for instance, to access products from Akenio PIM to populate pages. So they can, if they want to add another page, they simply add another page and drag and drop products onto that page. They can add comments and annotations. You can do approval processes. So behind this platform, there's a workflow model, a very simple workflow model. And then you can decide, either from here, once the publication is approved, I can send it straight to digital distribution. Or if I want to produce glossy print, I can send it to media design for final finishing, for printing. And using the in-between InDesign plugin that even allows inclusion of media designers to read comments and annotations to be part of the full system.
Just a question. Sorry, go ahead, Larkin.
No, I wanted to say, I mean, I've used this UI before and I've demoed it before as well, and I love it. It is actually that easy to use. The question that I always get, and I want to kind of preempt, is that you have a tremendous amount of control over what gets sent forward and what becomes part of these catalogs. So it's very, very easy right within the Akeneo UI, right within the PIM, to create, a category that this is a catalog that I want to create, a digital catalog that I want to create for this supplier or retailer, for this potential customer, and you can easily sort, filter, drop 50 or 100 products into that bucket, hit a button and have it get sent over to the in between app to get created sort of on the fly. So you can say only products which are 100% complete according to my standards, only products which have this flag, only products which are in this category. So you have a tremendous amount of control over when things get sent, what gets sent, and you can really create these catalogs in seconds. I've seen it done and I've done it myself. So it's a great tool.
Now, the
Yes, and
control sounds really interesting, and it sounds like there's a pretty high degree of integration. Is this a REST API integration between the two applications, or what's behind the scenes?
absolutely. What we're using behind the scene is a REST API connector. It's being certified. It's been certified by Akeneo. I think it actually was the first certified app in the print app in the Akeneo App Store, and customers use it for those types of print publishing processes. But retailers use this and for all sorts of other use case scenarios.
Have you guys integrated your sign-ons, or they work as two
Yeah,
applications, or they work with single sign-on? How does that work?
it's really single sign-on. You start from the Akeneo App Store, and it's a single sign-on straight onto this online platform, and you can start working straight away. So it's pretty simple.
Pretty cool. All right.
Yes, and Lorcan said send products that are 100% complete. In fact, quite a lot of customers use this to send products that are not 100% complete because they use they look at the products in their typical catalog layout, and this helps them to complete the data in the PIM system. So using, because it's so simple to use, this user interface for producing Akeneo products into typical layouts helps increasing the data quality in the PIM system.
Yeah,
Never
I could
thought about
definitely
that, but
see.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
could definitely see how that would work, and it's also important to note. I think especially as we're looking at this page, that you have this notion of channel data inside of Akeneo as well. So for a single product, you can fill it out and have it be 100% complete, say for your e-commerce channel, and you've got your descriptions and your content. Maybe you've got videos and things that make sense, right? But now you want to send different data for the same product to your print catalog, right? To in between. So it's very, very easy. It's a single drop down within the UI of Akeneo to switch to say, okay, I'm looking at my ecom data for this product. Now show me my print data. And that print data can have a completely different set of completeness criteria. So of course I don't need videos to be sent to my print data, right? I want one high glossy image. I want a high quality image for that. Maybe I have a shorter description and a different set of price data, as you mentioned, if I'm sending it to one retailer versus another. So it's very easy to have that different channel data and decide not just what products you want to send over, but what content you actually want to send over to the print catalog as well.
Yes, and
Great.
on top of that, obviously, you can decide, what language you want to produce. Is there a different product range for different locales? So you can simply switch, and at one moment you produce an English-speaking catalog for US, and the next moment you will be producing the same catalog but for a slightly different product range for France or
Mhm.
for some other country. And that's something in combination, we can dynamically use different parameters. I always call them dimensions because it somehow sounds
Sure.
better. Um, so it's not just product ranges, languages, target markets, and so on. And dynamically working with the data present in the PIM system, this is really a huge benefit, especially for manufacturers because they're dealing with lots of data and lots of different types of publications.
One of the things that has really resonated with me as we've been involved in some of these print projects is just how much of a shift in mindset that I've made from looking at PIM as this IT centric thing, right? About having a single source of truth and having data quality, which is completeness and accuracy, but sometimes losing sight, perhaps, right, on what the channel needs, because I can produce a user manual or a catalog that can be 100% complete and 100% accurate. But if I give it to somebody in the wrong language, then I've kind of missed the mark there. So looking at product data from the endpoint back is just a bit of a paradigm shift that's been really interesting to explore. Peter, talk to us a
Well,
little bit about some of the. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yes, what I was going to say, what we're doing with print really is we're visualizing the data in a didactic way. Uh, that's the great thing about print, and print is actually the wrong word. We are talking about layouted presentations of products.
Mhm.
And it's a completely different way of looking at products compared to a web shop or some other e-commerce marketplace or whatever. Looking at layouted product data is a specific type of product experience, and it's unique. And Akenio and In Between really allows customers to provide their customers very unique views on the type of products they're delivering, including all the technical details.
You know what? I'm glad you said it that way because yeah, my favorite thing in that speech that you just gave is that we're not talking about print. Print is sort of the wrong word there because so
Exactly.
many of what I see people create are these digital catalogs, right? That are actually clickable, linkable. You can hover over and you get pop-ups with additional bits of information. I've seen people populate. Not they're sort of web catalogs, right? Not e-commerce sites per se, but these online digital portals where people can come in and sort and filter on their products, or you can actually email it over to somebody. So there's so much that's being done today with the digital focus that I think happens at least as often as somebody actually sends this data to a printer.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a great point. Although I did, as a kid, I remember getting the big Sears,
Of
what was it,
course.
the toy catalog, the wish list thing or something. Just Friday, I got in the mail one of those from Amazon, right? So they literally sent me
Really?
a print catalog of. My kids are well too old to benefit from a lot of that. So maybe they need to work on their CRM data a little bit. But it was just interesting to see this cyclical nature of and it's really interesting that that you're talking about print might maybe not being the right word. So hopefully we've explored that a little bit, and the audience recognizes that we're not necessarily talking about paper media, we're not necessarily talking about online PDFs, but it's anything that's consumable, regardless of that of that collateral. Lorcan or Peter, I think we just going through a quick review of the bullets. I want to make sure we leave time for questions. We've got about 10 minutes or so left. Any closing comments or anything that we might have missed? I think we covered most of these points, but wanted to give you guys an opportunity to comment.
I think, on point three, obviously we probably should have a call to action if anybody needs any assistance with this. I think we're going to all drop our contact details in the comments here. And I think that they'll probably be pushed to LinkedIn after this call as well, but we're all easy to find. So if you'd like a customized demo of this, if you want to privately ask some questions, have us walk through this with you, we're happy to do it. We have access to these connectors. They're up, they're running, they're live. We can kind of show you in real time data getting sent over, and you can really dig into the technology of it with the In Between team and the Antara team. So we're happy to help, happy to show you a little bit more if you're curious, but also very happy to take questions.
Great point. All right, to that point, let's turn it over. Does the audience have any questions? Anything we might have, either introduced questions or feedback, or just commentary? And I think we've got a chat in the meeting for you to put those in, if there are any. I should have mentioned that before. Sorry. Give you guys a minute.
I'm just going to go ahead and drop my email address in the chat as well. So I don't know if you guys want to do the same, but people are free to reach out to us directly after the fact if that's more comfortable.
Great idea.
Yeah. I was having a little bit of trouble with, let's see if mine worked. No.
Oh, sorry.
All
If you
right.
give me a moment, I'll grab yours as well.
No, sure. Thank you. Yeah, but I've had a little bit of trouble with the chat feature here. Questions or feedback? Surely we did not do, didn't so well that there was no questions.
Well,
Anybody have
apparently
anything?
we answered all the questions.
We did it. We did it. Yeah, we did it. Right. I'll ask one while we're giving people a chance to kind of think through, or maybe type these in, and not to catch anybody off guard, but maybe let's talk a little bit about. Gosh, I guess there's no such thing as an average project, but if somebody were thinking, what's the level of effort here? Peter, do you have any kind of guidelines or examples of time to value here? I mean, is this something that in 12 weeks you would expect? That a customer would be able to, assuming they already had a Kineo, they already had product data, and they wanted to start to go to this type of delivery. Is 12 weeks a reasonable number to expect to be able to have something out there?
Yeah, it's definitely this is a good start, and it obviously depends on the type of project. But data sheets, spec sheets can be done definitely between in 12 weeks time. A catalog, a multilingual catalog, might take a little longer, but that's something we need to talk to specifically with any of the companies interested in that approach, because there's too
So
many
many variables.
questions, too many variables. But yes, 12 weeks is a good marker to start off
Yeah.
with.
All right. I'm not seeing any questions. Peter or Lorcan, anything you would like to close with? I think we've covered most of this pretty well.
Well, I'd be excited to see if maybe people want to ask questions on LinkedIn later on, or via email. So I'd be really interested to find out whether we struck a chord here, whether um, whether manufacturers are interested in that approach. I'd love to work with you two to show what we got.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, as I said, happy to demo it all the time. We kind of breezed through the customers, I think, because we were trying to save time. I don't know if you wanted to show
I
up
can
that
go back.
customer slide again. That's really Peter's call.
Yeah, that's a good idea. 1 second.
This
Yeah, let's
one,
use
yes.
there we go.
So this is an extract of the in-between customers. A lot of them work with Akineo. Unfortunately, not all of them, but we're working on that. Um, so there are some great examples. So Rollplug, international company, that's Akineo, and in between Roka, big companies. And the interesting thing is they're using the full platform, the in-between platform, not just to produce print publications, but because they have a more complex marketing structure. They use in-between to kind of do governance over use of CI in InDesign, in the online platform, in automation. They control who is allowed to access what part of a catalog. So there's a lot more to the solution than we can show today. And yes,
I think in closing, I'll just mention that having seen a number of these, projects over the years, there's everything. Well, the first observation is when we look at some of these logo slides, I still just get it's just crazy to me how many companies, not just in Europe but in the U.S. that we've probably never heard of until we see the logo or until we get the customer, and then we see their trucks, all over the place. But I
exactly.
think it's fair to say that we've got examples of this where with fashion, where they're more lifestyle driven, right? More imagery and fewer tech specs, but all the way over to some really really complicated, especially in the German and Nordic markets. It seems like they're very very specification heavy and complex tables. and really everything in between. So anybody out there that's looking to explore this feature or function, let's get together and talk more about it. But I think that concludes our LinkedIn Live. We finished about 3.5 minutes early, which is pretty right on. But Lorcan, thank you, and Peter both so much. Enjoyed the conversation, and maybe we'll look forward to a follow up.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jeff. Thank you for taking us through it.
You got
Thank
it.
you,
Take
Logan.
care. See you, everyone.
Right.
Bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye.